Hey, welcome back to the Big Rant Show. Thank you for joining me. Now, this is a story where I would normally be ranting and raving and screaming about. But you know what? It's past that. I'm to the point that I cannot scream and holler about this anymore. Too many unarmed Americans are being murdered in this country over and over again. We see the same story. The cops lie, they murder somebody, they lie about why they murdered it. And this man here is no different. Tyre Nichols, a family man, had a child, loved his mom, loved skateboarding. According to his friends, he was phenomenal. All around, from what I've seen, a decent person. I don't know of any of his history completely, but from the way his family and friends are describing him, he just seemed like a happy guy, living a good life, or at least trying to, until the night that the officers decided they would kill him. You see, Mr. Nichols was driving around in Memphis, gets pulled over by the police for supposed reckless driving. They throw him to the ground. He's obviously terrified. He's on the ground, on his side. They're screaming, "Get on your stomach!" He's not understanding what to do. Really, he tries to do what they ask. And finally, when it makes sense what they're saying, he does end up trying to get on his stomach like they ask. And then they start threatening to tase him, even though he's on the street. So it tells him, "Hey, I better run." So fight or flight takes hold. Instead of fighting with the cops, he abandons everything. He abandons his car and everything, just runs and gets away. And then later on, they find him. Those same officers, and we'll discuss these officers in just a minute. But they find him, and at least they brutally attack him. At least attacking him at least nine separate times or 9 times in 4 minutes. He dies 3 days later due to those injuries. Now, I know some people out there are going to be like, "Well, he should have complied." Complied with what? An unlawful order to vacate his car? It is not a lawful order if you're not being given an order for something you've done wrong. The officers do not get to just pull you out of your car. They don't get to just make up something to pull you over. So let's make that clear. That if he had been pulled over for a legitimate stop, then maybe you could say he should have complied. But it became very clear shortly into the video they released on Friday. Their intentions were not to let this man ever go home. Now, those officers, let me read you their names. The former officers, Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Justin Smith, Emmett Martin, and Desmond Mills Jr. have all been charged with second-degree murder, aggravated assault, and 2 charges of aggravated kidnapping, 2 charges of official misconduct, and 1 charge of official oppression by the local DA. Now, these officers were fired very quickly by the Memphis PD, and they were charged in amazing fashion. This should be a blueprint for every time an officer does what these officers did. Anytime an officer murders an unarmed person when there's no cause for it, this is how swiftly justice should start. We shouldn't have to wait months and months. They should, if they do something wrong like this, the hammer of justice should fall immediately. And that is what happened in Memphis, Tennessee. But this story gets deeper because this story, unfortunately, doesn't stop there. Why did they pull him over and lie that he was driving recklessly? Because according to the police chief, there is no evidence. No evidence. That means no body cam, no dash cam, no surveillance, and we know Memphis is surveilled to the hilt. They are one of the most um, surveilled cities in the entire nation. You want to talk police state? Memphis, Tennessee, and that was a response to massive crime in the area. So I understand why they've got the videos cameras, and I'm glad they do to save this man, at least to save this man's name. Couldn't save his life, unfortunately. But the story is that potentially Mr. Nichols may have been in a relationship with a person who was also in a relationship with this, or with a woman who was in a relationship also with one of those officers, or had recently left one of those officers. It is not known if he knew these officers or if he knew the person he was with had been with these officers. He didn't know. At least that's what the reports I've seen say. We don't know if he didn't know. They're part of what they call the Scorpion Unit, a unit that's not typically one that's out there pulling people over, even for people driving supposedly recklessly, because they were supposed to be, more, more like drug enforcement stuff, right? If my readings are correct. But Tyre Nichols lost his life because of these men. His child no longer has a father. His mom has lost a son. His friends have lost a friend. I'm absolutely appalled at what happened to this man. I'm absolutely appalled at the fact that they tried to cover it up, that the officers themselves tried to cover it up. But I am very happy to know that the Memphis PD didn't go along with their cover up, that the story didn't make sense to them, and it didn't make sense to the DA. And they did some digging and found out that none of what they say happened. Rest in peace, Mr. Nichols. I hope your family um, can find the strength to move forward. I also hope that one day this will stop. Anyways, y'all have a great day. I'll see you down the road. Good luck.